All right. Goku and Marvel, episode 10. Goku versus Iron Man. The Iron Monkey makes a bargain. Let's get straight to it. The neon glow of Hong Kong's underworld pulsed like a heartbeat as Goku stepped out of the black sedan. His lion cloak was replaced with a sleek dark suit, courtesy of the Mandarin's resources. The suitcase that was in his grip was heavy with cash, and the two silent hand ninjas flanked him, moved like ghosts through the crowded streets. The meeting place was a high-end tea house, its upper floor reserved for those who dealt in things best left unspoken. The dealer was a wiry man with a cybernetic eye. He sat at a low table, his fingers drumming against a velvet-lined case. Inside was the ring of Lai Lai, glimmered its surface etched with arcane circuitry that seemed to shift under the light. Goku dropped the suitcase onto the table with a thud, popping it open to reveal a stack of crisp bills. The dealer eyed the money. The Mandarin's generosity is appreciated. Goku grinned. Yeah, just hand it over. The dealer hesitated and then slid the case toward him. And as Goku took the case, he told the dealer he still needed him for something. The moment the dealer took the position, Goku's tail twitched beneath his suit jacket. He could have taken the ring and just vanished, mission complete. But the Mandarin's warning about this Tony Stark had sparked something primal in him. A man in a metal suit, a genius who knew combat. That wasn't just a target. That seemed to be quite the challenge. Crouching in the alley shadow, Goku exhaled slowly, his breath misting in the humid air. The neon signs above painted the wet pavement in streaks of red and blue, and the distant hum of the city was a far cry from the savage land's untamed roar. But the thrill of the hunt was the same. This Stark guy, he's got to be strong if the Mandarin was worried about him. His fingers drummed against the case holding the ring. He could feel the energy inside it, subtle, like a whisper against his skin. But his focus wasn't on this artifact. He was looking for his target. Hong Kong's skyline glittered like a circuit board as Tony Stark's private jet cut through the night sky. Inside, the billionaire reclined in his seat, swirling a glass of whiskey, his third since takeoff. Sir, we're approaching the landing zone, Jarvis intoned. Tony smirked, tapping his arc reactor. Good. Let's see if this little trinket's worth the hype. The intel had been vague. A black market auction, a ring rumored to amplify intellect beyond human limits. Tony didn't believe in magic, but he did believe in upgrades. And if there was even 1% chance this thing could sharpen his mind further, it was worth the look. The moment his boots hit the tarmac, his watch beeped. A notification from Pepper. Tony, you promised no more mystical artifact purchases after the Asgardian incident. He fired back a text. Relax, Pep. I'm just window shopping. That was a lie. Because Tony Stark, he never window shopped. Tony's smirk vanished the moment he turned, because standing behind him wasn't a nervous dealer or a rival bidder. It was a kid in a suit. Wild black hair, a feral grin, and what the hell? A monkey tail twitching behind him like some type of whip. The boy couldn't have been older than 16, but his eyes burned with a kind of raw, unhinged excitement that Tony usually saw in himself right before blowing something up. Goku cracked his knuckles. Hey, Metal Man, why don't you go ahead and suit up? Tony blinked. Kid, I don't know what back alley anime you crawled out of, but he stopped talking. His sensors pinged. Shadow shifted behind him. Tony sighed, rolling his eyes. Aw, come on. Ninjas? Really? Six figures in crimson hoods materialized from the darkness, blades gleaming under the neon glow. Their movements were silent, precise, because they were professional killers. Tony smirked. You guys really brought knives to a gunfight. His watch clicked. It whirred and then clanged. The iron beams lanced out, slamming the first two ninjas into a shipping container hard enough to dent the steel. A third flipped over the blast, katana flashing. Clang! Only for Tony to catch the blade in his palm, crushing it like tinfoil, before decking the guy with a gauntleted uppercut. Jarvis, remind me to get out my dry cleaning, seeming unbothered by the situation he was in. The remaining assassins regrouped, then froze as Goku stepped forward, his tail lashing. You are all dismissed. This one's mine. Tony barely had time to register the blur of movement before Goku's fist caved into his chest plate. Crack, boom! The impact sent him rocketing backward, his armor screeching against brick as he cratered into a warehouse wall. Dust rained down, alarms blared in his HUD, and for the first time in years, Tony Stark felt something he rarely did. Genuine surprise. Jarvis spoke calmly. Structural integrity at 88%. Force of impact suggests enhanced physiology. Possible super soldier variant. Tony coughed, repulsors flaring as he pushed himself free. Yeah, no kidding. Goku stood at the mouth of the alley, rolling his shoulders, his grin sharp as a knife. Not bad, Tin Man. You can take a hit. Tony's gauntlets whined as they powered up. Kid, I don't know what kind of back alley steroids you're on, but I don't want to be responsible for any type of child abuse. Goku loomed over the downed Iron Man, his tail flicking with anticipation as he pulled the velvet case from his jacket with a casual flick of his wrist. He popped it open, revealing the ring of Lai Lai, its arcane circuitry pulsing faintly in the dim alleyway. Tony's HUD immediately lit up with scans. Energy signature unknown, composition unidentified alloy with psionic resonance. Goku grinned, snapping the case shut. Heard you were after this shiny thing. My employer says you were dangerous. Some kind of genius in a metal suit. He crouched, tilting his head. But you don't seem to be that tough. Tony scoffed, repulsors humming as he pushed himself up. Kid, I've punched giants in the face. You're not even a warm-up. Is that so? Prove it. Goku's grin turned razor sharp. Fight me. If you win, then the ring is yours. Tony's smirk was hidden behind his helmet, but the smugness dripped from his voice. Or, I could just do this. And before Goku could react, the arc reactor in Tony's chest flared. Blam! A deafening flashbang detonated right in the Saiyan's face. Goku snarled, instinctively shielding his eyes, his tail puffed up in agitation. Jarvis, activate the... Yeah, that one. A compartment of Tony's gauntlets hissed open, and a high-powered electromagnetic whirred to life. The ring of Lai Lai yanked free from Goku's grip like a bullet, snapping into Tony's waiting palm. What? Hey! Goku lunged, but Tony was already airborne, repulsors blasting. Kid, rule one when it comes to fighting a genius. Tony tossed the ring in the air and caught it, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You always gotta remember to work smarter, not harder. Goku's eyes narrowed, then, boom, he kicked off the ground hard enough to crater the pavement, rocketing upward like a missile. Tony's HUD screamed a warning. Sir, he's... Aw, come on. Goku's fist grazed the armor's boot as Tony twisted midair, barely dodging. The force of the near miss sent a gust of wind that rattled the windows below. Tony flipped backward, already accelerating. Yeah, no. We're done here. Goku's grin stretched wider as Iron Man shot into the bright sky, his repulsors painting streaks of blue against the Hong Kong skyline. The thrill of the chase ignited his blood. This wasn't just a mere fight now. It was a hunt. With a burst of power, Goku launched himself onto a nearby rooftop, his boots cracking the concrete as he landed. Neon signs flickered around him, casting a shadow, long and jagged, across the urban canyon. His tail lashed behind him like a whip, his senses sharpening as he tracked Tony's trajectory. Run all you want, Metal Man, he muttered, cracking his knuckles. That'll just make it more fun. He took off, leaping from building to building with terrifying speed. Each impact sent tremors through the rooftops. Air conditioner units crumpled, satellite dishes shattered, and pedestrians below gasped as a blur of motion tore across the skyline. Goku's pulse pounded in his ears, his Saiyan instincts singing. Tony was fast, but Goku already had his metallic scent. Tony streaked over Hong Kong's glittering skyline, the city's neon glow fading behind him as he banked toward the darkened countryside. The hum of repulsors was the only sound as rice paddies and rolling hills replaced skyscrapers. He smirked behind his helmet, flipping the ring of Lai Lai between his fingers. Jarvis began to speak. No further pursuit detected, sir. Tony chuckled. Kid's got hops, but nobody outruns a Mark 12. He glanced at the ring, its circuitry pulsating faintly. All right, let's see what you thud. Something heavy landed on his back. Tony barely had time to register the weight before claws, no fingers, dug into the seams of his armor. His HUD screamed warning as the world spun violently. Trees rushed up to meet him. Crash! Dirt, leaves, and shattered branches exploded as Tony plowed through the forest floor, his armor screeching in protest. The impact knocked the wind out of him, the ring only still in his possession because of his magnetic pulse. Tony's helmet retracted with a sharp hiss, his face a mix of disbelief and grudging respect as he stared at the grinning Saiyan standing over him. "How the hell did you track me?" Tony demanded, wiping dirt from his brow. His HUD had lost this kid completely. No heat signature, no radar ping, nothing. Goku tapped his nose. Tail flicked behind him like an amused cat's. "Your suit's got a smell. Burnt metal, oil, and that weird blue energy from your chest thing. Kinda like a jet engine, but spicier." He sniffed the air again for emphasis. "Easy to follow once I caught it." Tony blinked. Wait, you smelled me? From that far back?" Goku shrugged. I've hunted raptors in the dark when I was a kid. You're not exactly subtle." He cracked his knuckles, grinning wider. "Also, you're not as fast as you think. I fought guys who move like lightning. You just sound like it." Tony scoffed, but his mind was already racing. Enhanced senses. Superhuman speed. This wasn't just some juiced up street brawler. The kid had biology on his side for sure. "Jarvis," Tony muttered under his breath. "Note to self. Develop odorless thrusters." Goku's grin turned razor sharp. "Or you could just fight me. For real this time." Tony's repulsors hummed to life. "Kid, you're about to learn why they call me the Iron Man." Goku's eyes gleamed. "Finally." Tony Stark sighed behind his golden faceplate, the whine of his repulsors building to a crescendo as he leveled his gauntlet at Goku. The blue-white glow of the arc reactor cast sharp shadows across the forest floor, illuminating the Saiyan's feral grin. "Fine," Tony muttered, his voice laced with exasperation. "Guess I'm taking the kid to school." Goku's tail flicked eagerly behind him, his muscles coiled like springs. "Bring it." The repulsor blast screamed forward, a searing beam of concussive force capable of flipping a tank. But Goku didn't dodge. Boom! The shockwaves tore through the grass below him, sending gravel and dirt flying. Tony's HUD flicked as the dust cleared, expecting to see a smoking crater, only for Goku to step out of the smoke with his forearms singed, but his grin was intact. "Not bad," he laughed, shaking off the burn like it was nothing. "That actually stung." Tony's jaw dropped. "Jarvis, what the hell is this kid made of?" "Unknown composition, sir," the AI replied, scanning frantically. His cellular structure appears to resist kinetic energy at an impressive rate." "Okay," Tony sighed to himself. "New plan." Goku's eyes gleamed. "Yeah?" Tony's smirk was audible. "I stop holding back." Tony's repulsor screamed as he unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, each one capable of leveling a concrete wall. But Goku moved like a phantom, twisting and flipping through the air with impossible grace. The pulse of blue-white energy seared past him, close enough that the heat roughed his hair and the static made his tail puff up, but not a single blast found its mark. Goku's grin never wavered. He cartwheeled over one blast, backflipped under another, and sidestepped a third with a dancer's precision. His reflexes were honed from years of dodging raptors in the savage lands or sparring with warriors like T'Challa, Elektra, and Shang-Chi. Every motion was instinct, every evasion effortless. Tony's HUD scrambled to track him, but the kid was a blur, a shadow dancing between explosions. "Okay," Tony muttered, recalibrating his targeting systems. "Either I'm drunk or this kid's playing the Matrix on hard mode. Probably both." Goku landed lightly on a tree branch, tail coiling for balance. "Come on, Tin Man, you're not even trying hard enough." Tony's smirk returned. Despite himself, the sheer audacity was almost admirable. "Jarvis, note to self, never bet against this monkey kid in dodgeball." As Goku effortlessly weaved through the storm of repulsor blasts, Tony's HUD flicked with rapid calculations. "Sir, subject's evasion pattern suggests predictive reflexes," Jarvis reported, overlaying a grid of trajectory lines across Goku's movements. "He anticipates attacks at 0.3 seconds before initiation, likely through micromuscular tension, observation, or enhanced instinct." Tony's eyes narrowed behind the helmet. "So he's reading my tells before I even fire." "Great, just great." He adjusted his gauntlet's output, feinting a left side blast before abruptly pivoting to the right. Goku still dodged, but this time his leap was narrower. Pattern recognized, Jarvis announced. Subject favors diagonal retreats when pressured. Suggests staggered fire to limit escape vectors. Tony smirked. All right, kid. It's time to play chess. His next volley wasn't just faster, it was smarter. Blast fired in calculated sequences, herding Goku into tighter spaces. One repulsor shot forced him left. The next cut off his retreat. For the first time, Goku had to block a glancing hit with his forearm, hissing at the burn. Tony's grin widened. Gotcha. Goku sprang forward, muscles coiled, for his signature zigzag rush, only for a repulsor blast to slam straight into his chest mid-motion. Predictive modeling complete, Jarvis announced as the beam connected. Target trajectory intercepted. The force hurled Goku backward like a cannonball. He crashed through the thickets and thorny branches, skidding across the dirt until his back smacked against a gnarled tree trunk. Leaves rained down around him as he coughed, blinking in disbelief. Iron Man hovered just ahead, repulsor still glowing. I knew I could figure you out, kid. Goku stepped out of the shattered undergrowth, his once pristine suit now hanging in tattered strips, scorched black at the edge from the repulsor blast. The remnants of the fabric fluttered in the breeze, revealing the leopard skin wraps beneath, one of Kraven's old outfits he took with him. Toughened by Savage Land resins and countless battles, his chest bore a faint red mark where the energy beam had struck, but his grin was as sharp as ever. Now that, Goku said, cracking his neck with a satisfied sigh, that was a real hit. He rubbed the spot absently, his tail flicking behind him like an amused cat's. Most guys just scratch the surface. You, on the other hand, you made me feel it. Tony's helmet tilted, his repulsor still humming, but his stance loosened slightly. Kid, you should be a pancake right now. Goku laughed, shaking off the last of the smoke. I've had worse. One time when I was a kid, a T-Rex bit me clean through the shoulder. That stung. He rolled his arms, testing the muscle. But you're smart. Figured out my rhythm, huh? Tony couldn't help the smirk creeping into his voice. Yeah, well, genius, remember? Goku's eyes gleamed. Good. That means you'll last longer. Goku blurred forward, faster than before, his muscles contracting, his tail whipping behind him for balance. Jarvis tracked the initial trajectory, predicting the same zigzag pattern from earlier, and Tony fired a repulsor blast to intercept, only for Goku to shift at the last second. Shang-Chi's training had kicked in. Instead of brute forcing his way forward, Goku moved like water, flowing around the blast, his body twisted midair in a way that defied physics. He planted one foot against a tree trunk, using the momentum to launch himself upward, flipping clearly over Iron Man's head. Tony barely had time to pivot before Goku landed behind him, his fingers clamping down on the armor's shoulder seams, the weak points Shang-Chi had taught him to exploit. Gotcha, Goku grinned. Then he heaved. Tony's world flipped upside down as Goku's raw strength overpowered the suit's current stabilizers. The ground rushed up to meet him. Crack. Boom. The impact cratered the earth, sending shockwaves through the forest floor. Dirt and debris exploded outward, leaves swirling in the sudden gust. Tony groaned inside the armor, his HUD flicking with damage reports as the force rattled his bones behind the armor. Goku landed lightly beside him, dusting off his hands. Huh, that actually worked. Tony wheezed, pushing himself up with one elbow. Okay, what was that? Goku's tail flicked. Kung Fu. Tony's helmet retracted, revealing a disbelieving smirk. You're telling me a feral monkey kid just judo flipped me with martial arts? Tony's HUD flickered with damage alerts. Servos strained. Repulsors at 78%. Minor plating fractures, but the suit was still combat ready. He pushed himself up, shaking off the dirt as Goku stood there with that infuriating, earnest grin. Software can't predict someone with a real flow in combat, the kid said, sounding way too pleased with himself. Tony groaned, rolling his shoulders to recalibrate the suit stabilizers. Spare me with the Karate Kid analogies, kid. Next you're gonna tell me To find my center, or some other fortune cookie nonsense. Goku just tilted his head. I mean, yeah, that does help. No, Tony cut him off, her posters winding back to full power. I don't want any Zen wisdom. I don't want to be like water. None of it. He fired up his thrusters, hovering just above the crater. I've had enough mystical martial arts crap from a certain young crocodile hunter with punk rock hair. Goku shrugged, tail flicking behind him. Suit yourself. But it is kind of funny. You build all this fancy tech just to get wrecked by a guy who was trained in the woods. Tony smirked as his thrusters roared to life, lifting him high above the tree line in a blaze of blue-white energy. The forest shrank beneath him, the wind whipping through his hair as he hovered just out of Goku's reach before the helmet went back onto his face. One thing I know for sure, kid, Tony called down, his voice laced with a smug triumph. Monkeys can't fly. Then he unleashed hell. Repulsor beams rained down like artillery fire, each blast carving craters into the earth and reducing ancient trees to splinters. Goku twisted and weaved, his reflexes pushed to the limit as explosions bracketed him on all sides. The ground trembled, the air itself vibrating with concussive force, forcing him into a desperate dance of evasion. Tony wasn't just firing randomly either, he was hurting him, cutting off escape routes with calculated precision. One blast forced Goku into a roll, another pinned him against a rocky outcrop. The sheer volume of fire made it impossible to counterattack. Every time Goku tensed to leap, another repulsor strike forced him back. Jarvis, keep him boxed in, Tony ordered, circling like a hawk. Let's see how long those reflexes hold up. Goku's tail lashed in frustration as he ducked behind a shattered boulder. The rock vaporized seconds later. He needed to close the distance, but Tony wasn't giving him an opening. Then his foot slipped on loose soil. A millisecond of imbalance. Tony didn't miss it. The repulsor blast caught Goku square in the chest, hurling him through the air like a rag doll. He crashed through the branches, skidding across the dirt, before finally rolling to a stop, with his chest heaving. Tony descended slightly, but still airborne, repulsor still humming. Had enough yet? Goku exhaled sharply, tasting blood and ozone in his mouth as he rolled behind a gnarled tree trunk. The forest around him was a war zone, smoldering craters, shattered timber, and the acrid stench of the impulsor's energy, thick in the air. Tony's aerial assault had pushed him harder than anything since Wakanda, but the savage land had taught him one unshakable truth. The hunter always has the advantage in his own terrain. And with a feral grin, Goku melted into the brush. His footsteps became silent, his breathing shallow. The forest wasn't just cover, it was a weapon. He snapped a low-hanging branch, tossing it westward before slinking east. Tony's HUD pinged at the sound of repulsor swiveling. There, a blast obliterated the decoy, buying Goku some seconds. He moved like a shadow, using the canopy's dappled moonlight to mask his approach. When Tony hovered lower to scan the undergrowth, Goku struck, not from the front, but from below. His fist slammed upward through a rotted log, sending a spray of splinters into Tony's visor. The armor sensors flared, momentarily blinded. Jarvis, where? Goku was already gone, circling behind another tree. The forest breathed with him, its rustling leaves masking his steps. Tony spun, repulsors charging, but the jungle didn't betray its sun. Now Iron Man was the one being hunted. Goku moved like a predator through the smoke-choked forest. His fingers split wood like they were claws, calloused from years of savage land combat, digging into bark as he vaulted over fallen trees. Repulsor blast scorched the earth behind him, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he used the chaos. With every near miss, he twisted, driving his elbow or his heel into the trunks of half-shattered oaks and pines. Wood groaned, fiber splintered, then cracked. A dozen severed logs tumbled into the undergrowth. Tony's HUD flickered, tracking the sudden debris. Kid's playing lumberjack now all of a sudden, he muttered, firing at a blur of motion near a toppled cedar, but Goku was already doubling back. He snatched up the first log, thick as a barrel, and hurled it skyward like a javelin. Tony barely dodged, repulsor blasting it to splinters. Then another came, and another. Goku wasn't just throwing them, he was aiming, using the logs like artillery to herd Tony into a narrow airspace. Jarvis, recalculate evasion. Thunk. A log clipped his boost thruster, sending him into a spin. Goku seized the opening, hurling two more in rapid succession. Tony blasted the first, but the second grazed his shoulder plate, knocking him off balance. Goku grinned, tail lashing. The forest was his arsenal now. Every tree was ammunition, every dodge a setup. Tony's repulsors flared, vaporizing another log, but the splinter remains rained down like shrapnel, peppering his armor with glancing blows. The moment Tony's repulsor swiveled to intercept, Goku was already airborne. His muscles coiled up, his tail whipping behind him for balance as he launched off the forest floor with enough force to crater the earth beneath him. Bark and dirt exploded outward in his wake as he rocketed upward, a living missile aimed straight for Iron Man's glowing chest reactor. Tony's HUD screamed warnings, incoming impact in 0.2 seconds, but reflexes honed in 100 battles kicked in. He twisted mid-air, repulsors flaring, to pivot his torso aside, but Goku anticipated the dodge at the last possible instant. The Saiyan twisted his own body, tail lashing to adjust his trajectory like a rudder. His outstretched fingers grazed the edge of the arc reactor. Boom! Tony's repulsor blast connected with Goku's ribs at the same moment that Goku's palm struck the reactor. The dual impact sent shockwaves through both of them. Goku's ribs screamed as the concussive force nearly folded him in half, while Tony's armor sparked violently, systems overloading from the feedback surge. For a heartbeat, they hung suspended in the air, locked in a brutal stalemate of the force and will. Then, gravity reclaimed them. The battlefield fell eerily silent. Smoke curled from the scorched earth, the remnants of shattered trees still smoldering. The only sounds were the distant crackle of dying flames and the ragged breathing of the two warriors who were injured. Goku stood victorious, his chest bare, his shirt vaporized by the last repulsive blast, revealing a lattice work of scars earned from the savage lands and all his previous battles. His ribs ached, his skin burned, but his grip was unshakable. In his fist, he held Tony Stark by the neck, the Iron Man's armor systems flickering, its once gleaming surface now dull and sparking. The helmet's visor was cracked, revealing Tony's dazed expression, his face pale from the feedback surge that had short-circuited his arc reactor. Jarvis' voice cracked weakly through the damaged systems. Critical failure. Nanite repair systems are overwhelmed. Cardiac stabilizers are failing fast. Tony coughed, his vision swimming, his fingers twitched, but the suit refused to respond. The kid, no, this monster, hadn't just outmaneuvered him. He'd outlasted him. Goku's tail flicked behind him, his sand blood singing with the thrill of battle. But there was no gloating in his eyes, just respect. You're tough, metal man, he admitted, loosening his grip, just enough to let Tony breathe. But you rely too much on that suit. Tony wheezed, his smirk weak but present. Kid, you just ripped out my heart. And you're giving me advice? Goku blinked. Then he glanced down. Oh. The arc reactor. Tony's artificial heart was in his hands, torn free from in the final clash. Goku's grip loosened as he glanced between the flicking arc reactor in his palm and Tony's ashen face. The man's breathing was ragged, his lips tinged blue. No suit, no power, just stubborn defiance glinting in his eyes even as death was creeping in. With a shrug, Goku tossed the reactor back to him. Here, you need this more than I do, clearly. Tony fumbled but caught it, slamming it back into his chest with a gasp. The armor system stuttered back online, nanites weaving repairs as color returned to his face. Jarvis' voice was the first thing he heard. Stabilizing. But I'd advise against further combat, sir. Tony coughed, glaring up at Goku. What? No finishing blow? Some assassin you are. Goku grinned, tail swaying. Nah, you weren't my target. He held up the ring of light glinting in the moonlight. But I am taking this. Boss's orders. Tony's smirk returned, weak but sharp. Lucky for you, I didn't bring the big guns. Mark 13 would have turned you into a grease stain. Goku barked a laugh. Sure, old man. Keep telling yourself that. He crouched, ready to leap away, but paused. Hey, next time, bring that fancy armor. We'll put that statement to the test. Tony opened his mouth to retort. Whoosh! Goku was gone, the trees rustling in his wake. Tony groaned, flipping onto his back. Jarvis, remind me to invent a monkey-proof repulsor. Noted, sir. Also, Miss Pats is calling. Tony groaned louder. Ugh. Goku bombed through the forest, the ring secured in his pocket. The fight had been good, better than he expected. Stark was clever, adaptable, and a true challenge. But as he ran, his mind drifted to the reactor's pulse beneath his fingers. That tech wasn't just metal. It was alive, kind of like the vibranium that T'Challa had, and like the Mandarin's rings. A grin split his face. Next time I'll break that fancy armor too. And with that, the Saiyan vanished into the night, hunger already stirring for the next battle. With the Ring of Lai secured and his mission for the Mandarin complete, Goku found himself at a loose end. Elektra was still in New York, tangled in whatever shadow games the Hand had with Wilson Fisk. And if there was one thing Goku knew, it was that where Elektra went, strong fighters weren't far behind. That's why they hired people like him and her. Hong Kong's neon glow faded behind him as he hitched a ride on a cargo ship bound for America. The voyage gave him time to think about Stark's armor, Shang-Chi's betrayal, the Mandarin's cold ambition. None of it really mattered as much as the thrill of the fight, but something nagged at him. The world was bigger than he'd realized, stronger, and if he wanted to keep testing his limits, he needed to seek out the best. New York's skyline loomed like a jagged fortress when he arrived. The air smelled of exhaust, sweat, and something else. Conflict. Elektra's trail led to Hell's Kitchen, where whispers of a devil who prowled the rooftops had reached even the Hand's ears. Goku's tail twitched. A devil who could take on the Hand without flinching? Now that sounded like fun. He adjusted the line cloak over his shoulders, the golden mane catching the flicker of streetlights. Somewhere in the maze of steel and shadows, Elektra was working. Somewhere, warriors waited. And Goku grinned. Time to hunt. So yeah, that'll be the end of episode 10, Goku vs. Iron Man. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share it to somebody, man. We going up. Peace.